Welcome to the Social Work Rants podcast, providing a platform for social workers to share their stories. The podcast covers a wide range of topics, including mental health, social justice, policy, and the day-to-day realities of the profession. This season, season 9, will be focusing on the mental and emotional aspects of money for people of color. Hope you enjoy. Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to the podcast. I appreciate all the love and support. Gracias a todos por su apoyo. This podcast is not to be intended to be a replacement for individual therapy or any type of counseling. This podcast is intended for educational purposes only. If you need assistance, call 988, call 911. If you have a therapist, call your therapist. If you have a psychiatrist, call your psychiatrist. For all my viewers and listeners out of the United States, whatever your emergency number is, uh, call that number. Is okay not to be okay, but get the help that you need. Continue to follow the podcast on Instagram at the Social Work Rants Podcast. That is all one word. On Twitter, X. Yes, I'm still on Twitter and X. We'll talk about that in a bit. At Social Work Rants in Facebook, aka Meta, at the Social Work Rants Podcast. Hit that like button and, of course, the red subscribe button on YouTube. However, you listen to the podcast, download episodes, subscribe to the podcast, and shout out to everybody that's been doing that along the way. As I record this episode, is exactly a week since Agent Orange was declared the winner and will be the next president of the United States. Um, Lots of emotions. So bear with me. I should have wrote some of this down, but uh, it's going to be a rambling episode. So again, bear with me. Um, this episode. So obviously election night. Um, and what's shocking to me, well, number one, if you listen to the season finale that did in December of last year, 2023, I predicted Agent Orange was going to win. And this is not, and I told you so. Obviously, Biden was running. So I didn't think Biden was going to win. I was going to vote for him, but I didn't think he was going to win. Obviously, he drops out, and Vice President Harris runs and ran a great campaign and really galvanized people who seem to be excited. I know many people were excited that she ran and really thought she had the chance of winning. Uh, I was hopeful she was going to win when she didn't. I wasn't shocked like I was in 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost. That was a complete shock. I was definitely be disappointed. Um, of course, I sent out a tweet that America is racist and sexist. That could, continues to be the case. Um, this fear of not having a woman as president when uh, several countries throughout the world that's had female leaders. New Zealand during COVID had did I guess as a prime minister. No, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the leader of New Zealand during COVID, like had New Zealand on lock, and like they had a limited amount of COVID cases and did an amazing job. So it can be done. The fight continues, and um, maybe gearing up AOC. potentially. There's Jasmine Crockett, the Governor Whitmore in Michigan. There's several uh, strong, talented female potential candidates down the pipeline if we could get there. Because if you listen to the last episode, Project 2025 episode I did, how it relates to social work, Agent Orange has no intention of being in an election. He told you straight up. He's like, you ain't got to worry about voting in 2028. So let's see how that plays out. Um, it's just a lot. And um, so early on Tuesday, like the has you know the voting was closing in these different states, the early states like Indiana and all these, some of these states in the Midwest. Shout out to everybody, all the social workers in the Midwest. And Trump was winning and winning by a lot. I was like, all right, it's early. Like everybody's focusing on the swing states. Um, New York, there's a lot of electoral college votes in New York and a lot of electoral college votes in California. And New York, they polling I think ends at 9. I think it's either at 8 or 9. Uh, in California, it's West Coast time, so that's goes into midnight. Um, so I guess early, and then as states coming in, is like he's winning by a lot, and it's like it's not looking good. And come to find out, like, all right, by the time I went to sleep, it was sometime after midnight. He already had like 200 something electoral college votes, and and she was far behind. And I was like, I'm going to sleep. Of course, wake up in the morning, like 5 o'clock, put on the news. Actually, I think I saw it on my phone, and then like watching the news for a little bit, and then like later on, he was declared the winner. And again, not shocked, um, surprised, but not surprised, and not surprised, but not shocked. Um, I can't believe impeached twice. He did everything possible to lose 2 weeks before the election. Out that travesty that happened in Madison Square Garden, that racist rally that took place, and he still won. I was like, what the hell? So where do we go from here? Uh, before I get that, like I said, see, like all over the place. So shout out to past podcast guest and friend, Dr. LaShawn Paul. There was a Zoom that took place last Friday, I believe. Pretty much a group of people got together on Zoom and just kind of talked about their sadness, the kind of grief, and kind of the collective grief. Just talk about feelings for with the election results and kind of where to kind of go, where to kind of navigate, and from here. Um, so that was cool and definitely interesting to see different perspectives and kind of a lot of positivity, and kind of everybody was kind of in the same boat in terms of feelings and values and things like that, which was cool. Um, like I said, a lot of mix, a lot of emotions, and of course, like people like the numbers or the polling of like what what segment of the population voted. So you see like the breakdown of black men, black women, white women, Latino men, Latino women, and then initially like the narrative was like blaming Latinos and like you will not blame the blame. We have a week. The blame game is over. Latinos, we Latinos have had enough uh, trauma in these last pretty much 10 years, ever since Agent Orange started running and always disrespecting us, and you know that shooting fake ass free throws in Puerto Rico, and did nothing for Hurricane Maria, and did nothing real substance for 4 years. Uh, got blood on his hands, killing a million people thanks with his terrible COVID policy. Um, so yeah, don't. I voted for Harris. I know many Latinos who voted for Harris. So I would like to see a breakdown of. I don't know if it came out yet. I haven't seen anything of breakdowns of what subgroups of Latino, Latinx, Latina folk, who they voted for, because that was where Latinos, just like African Americans and any other group, are not a monolithic. I can't ever say that word correctly. Um, so yeah, so for an example, I'm what considered a New York Rican will be different than a Puerto Rican on the main on the mainland in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rican will be different than the Dominican, and different from the Ecuadorian, different from Colombia, so on and so forth. So yeah, that narrative I'll shut down real quick. And I know a lot of Latinos who did voted for Trump, and I know a few Latinos, they work in the police department. So more than likely, that's why they voted for him. Um, you know, people vote for their own interests without thinking about the rest of society, and how that will affect people in the long run. Think about what's happening right now and in this instant, and not thinking about 2, 3, 4 years down the line, how their life is going to react. Uh, one of my biggest gripes about the Biden campaign, during his when he was running, was his kind of lack of. He's doing good work, but the messaging wasn't clear. Like, I give you an example. When I went to in 2023, last year, went to the HIV and AIDS social work conference, and I actually had the oh, somebody who worked under the Biden administration for HIV and AIDS on the podcast. Um, and one of my questions to her was, she was explaining all the great things that the president was doing to help people with living with HIV and AIDS, and why is he not telling the American people what he is doing? Like, he has the the goal of ending HIV by 2030, and that he's doing all this great work. Why he's not letting people know all the great work that he's doing? Uh, we hear about the Build Back Better Act and the Inflation Act, and if you see all these roads getting fixed up, that's I give credit to Biden uh, putting money in to get these roads fixed. So there's always construction all over the place. Um, the student loans forgiveness, and I didn't see Harris at all talk about that, whether she's going to continue that or not. there was just a lot with the messaging, not saying what she's going to do, what he did, what he didn't do. Is like, I guess it might sound like I'm blaming, but that's why I said a lot of mixed emotions. I will say this: as of this recording, the stock market has been going crazy since the election. Uh, Trumpers don't get gassed because the stock market usually goes up to end the year. November, December, November is a great time to get in with the stock market. So don't play yourself. The stock market typically goes up during this time of year anyway. So don't give that orange man any credit regarding that. So don't play yourself. There will be a lot of "I told you so" coming. I, by March Madness, when the tournaments start, uh, by then, as early as March, there will be an "I told you so," and it already starting with all the picks that Agent Orange is picking with his cabinets, which is already some of this. He already picked his first time around. Betsy DeVos, Department of Education, didn't do a damn thing. She actually was, and part of the reason why, which I found out, was she she had was either married to somebody from Navient, or her money was tied to Navient, and Navient was one of the student loan vendors. Um, so that she was a disaster, did nothing for 4 years. We had our kids were doing Zooms for a year and a half, and basically lost a year and a half to 2 years of education, and we're still dealing with the aftermath of that. So, and that hasn't been really addressed under the Biden administration. Just all these different people, freaking Ben Carson, a heart surgeon, running HUD for housing. We're in a housing crisis. That wasn't addressed under the Trump administration. That trying Biden tried to fix that a little bit. We have a huge housing crisis in this country, and that's only going to get worse because of the inflation the global inflation that took place, and Biden actually tried to actually didn't fix the the inflation, and has been brought down. I've worked an hour away from my house for 2 years. I drove 3 hours driving to and from work 5 days a week for 2 years. I complain about gas as much as all you people that talked about, oh, gas is too high. I complain about that and still voted for Harris. I had to pay $4,000 and freaking get my four tires fixed because all the driving I did up and down Delaware, and with my business, driving to DC, and driving to Maryland, driving to Jersey, driving to New York. So all the wear and tear that I almost had my tires blown out on the highway. So yeah, inflation kicked my butt too. So uh, yeah, my house, I had to pay $9,000 because my HVAC completely blew out, and I had to get a whole total replacement for my house because the last 90-degree day in 2022 uh, for the season, the AC went kaput, and come to find out when I had to replace that, I was really close. I almost having a house fire. So I had to get it replaced. So yeah, inflation kicked my ass, uh, and yet uh, uh, the current president, he's still got a couple months left on the job, help reduce the inflation. So yeah, inflation kicked my ass, but uh, I think about my clients. I think about myself for as a social worker. Um, Agent Orange is gonna make our jobs a lot harder. our clients are really going to be really, really affected, especially if we have undocumented clients. Now we're dealing with their anxiety. We gotta make sure they still get what we need, and resources are really scarce. There's many different organizations that had COVID funding that got COVID funding. They don't have that funding anymore. And resources are really, really scarce. How people need housing, people need to move to new apartments, and apartments or prices is through the roof right now, and this throughout America. So yeah, the people want to blame, voted because the economy is bad, and things of that nature. But things are going to get worse. The Department of Education is going to be kaput. What does that lead to our student loan forgiveness? Not even that. Title 1, Title 9 funding. These public schools going to end. Like, what does that look like for our kids who are already many of them already struggling with mental illness, and like I said before, never fully recovered from the 2 years that they lost, uh, being educated basically through Zoom for 2 years during pandemic, and we never fully recovered from that, and and nothing has been done about that. But you want to think of you think Agent Orange is going to fix all that? He got freaking RFK Jr. To work on health. Like, what the heck does RFK Jr. know about health? You gonna see, you gonna learn. You gonna learn today, like the saying goes. So, fellow social workers, what we gonna do now? Today, somehow, some way, we need to start having conversations of a legit third party. Like Jill Stein is a freaking fraud. If you watch that Breakfast Club interview that Angela Rye did, fraud. I don't want to, just like I don't want to see Hillary Clinton anymore. I don't want to see Jill Stein anymore. Like, enough. Every 4 years you want to run and you talk a good game. Uh, Hot Mess Express, like, enough. Uh, I don't know how to do that. I don't know what does that look like, how realistic that could, but it needs to start. It needs to start now. It can't wait till like midterm elections and all this other stuff. Um, Immediately for our clients. For those who need Medicare, Medicare enrollment started. You literally got less than a month until it ends. I think it ends December 7th. If your clients need Medicare, help them enroll. The Medicare premium is going to go up again. So that comes out from their Social Security check. Their Social Security check in 2025, starting in 2025, is going to go up, I think, 2.5%, something like that. They're going to get like an extra 40, $50, whoever gets Social Security. Whether it be Social Security disability, SSI, regular Social Security, is going to go up like 2 points. So that's that doesn't like they're going to lose some of that money based on the increase of their premium if they pay a premium, because not everybody pays a Medicare premium. Most people do, but not everybody. Help them apply for Medicare. Make sure that they get Medicare Part D, which is the prescriptions. Make sure that they have A, which is for hospital. Uh, B is for just regular doctor visits, and Part D. Those are the main three. Um, they might need a Medicare Part C, which is a Medicare Advantage plan. Help people enroll if they need that. If you work at a hospital or you work in any sort of medical setting, a lot of hospitals are getting rid of contracts with certain um, health insurance companies. So make sure that you're not enrolling your clients into a Medicare plan that your medical company or hospital, if you work as a hospital social worker, that they're not enrolling into a company that your company doesn't take their insurance. Um, for example, my last job uh, stopped taking Humana insurance, so anybody that had Humana, I had to enroll them into another health uh, managed or Medicare Part C plan. Um, as a result of the increase for those who have Social Security, if they have Medicaid and Medicare, the Medicaid piece, that potentially you got to look out to see if, because of the increase in their Social Security benefits, that they might not qualify for Medicaid. Need to be looking out for that. If you social workers, care managers who listen or who watch, who work at agencies, companies that build Medicaid, now you gotta be proactive to make sure that they still gonna have Medicaid going into January or by the end of January. From my experience, I don't know. I usually don't know what the federal poverty level increase will be until like the end of January. I could probably do some research to see if automatically that comes out the beginning of the year. But my experience, I don't find that information out until the end of January. Um, so those kind of steps need to be proactive in terms of helping, clients. When I think about what Agent Orange might do, like the possible elimination of like WIC programs for people who have newborns, just a list of on and on that will potentially be eliminated if not immediately, going into 2026 will be probably a hard year, or more than likely will be a hard year. There may not be Affordable Care Act in 2026, which leads me Affordable Care Act. The enrollment has already started. It started November 1st. If you follow my business page, Bass Moreno Consulting, I talk about the enrollment period of that. And if you need help enrolling, I'm available to help because the last 2 years I became like an expert of doing Affordable Care Act applications. So, Affordable Care Act, Marketplace, ACA, Obamacare, it all means the same thing. So I use those interchangeably. Um, so I need to apply for marketplace insurance. Need to apply for Obamacare. It's the same thing. So you have to get coverage for January 1st. You need to do it by like the first week of December to get covered. I would say by December 1st. If you need coverage, this may be your last year of having Obamacare. So all these different things that, how our health system is going to look, how our education system is going to look, the lack of funding, the potential is going to be cut for our historically Black colleges and universities, our public school system. People voted for white supremacy. It is a whole mess. I'm still learning about why Latinos voted for Trump. Um, who are not police officers or in the army or anything like that. Um, I've listened to a couple podcast episodes, so I have some learning to do about that because I don't understand you coming from Venezuela with Hugo Chavez. You had Nicaragua, who had I'm young enough to remember Noriega, not the rapper, the dictator. All these conflicts that U.S. has gotten involved, like stuff happening with Panama back in the day, and yeah, come in here and able to vote and vote for somebody, and correct me if I'm wrong, vote for somebody who you try to get away from. And again, maybe that might sound me being ignorant or whatever, but uh, again, that's something I need to work on for myself to try to understand that, because that part I don't. And I would love to learn somebody who's knows about that, who's way smarter than me about that. And I would love to learn more about that. Um, the what doesn't get talked about, the 12 million people who supposedly didn't vote. Where what happened to those people? Where you guys that much upset with the genocide that's happening in Gaza that decided not to vote? Period, or did Agent Orange suppress those votes somehow? Where are those people? Yeah, this is and this is what all the feelings and the collective grief and just a lot of different mixed emotions and all this stuff, because there's a lot happening and multiple things can be true at the same time. These last 4 years have proven that uh, a lot of things, at least definitely two things, could be true at the same time. But multiple things, as we've seen, as we've seen, can be true at the same time. So it's just a lot, and it's okay to just for now rest. Um, but we need to move forward. Um, I will say this: I see a lot of stuff, mainly on Twitter X, whatever Elon calls it, of social workers bitching and complaining about the stock market and not caring about the stock market, and partially rightfully so. But you need to get into the game. You need to play the game within the game. Start learning about investing in the stock market. If you haven't already, these last 4 years, the boom of financial literacy that happened during COVID, um, play the game within the games. Learn to invest. There's apps like Stash. There's apps like Anchor. There's a million and one apps. Learn, get in the game. Things like apps like Stash and Acorns that I mentioned. You could open an IRA account as little as $5 to $10. Um, Start learning to invest your money. Is Yes, you can make money in social work, but you're not gonna be uh we're not gonna be we shouldn't be working like 50, 30, 40, 50 years in social work. The field is not meant for us to be working that long and dealing with people's problems and traumas for that long. And there's going to be a lot of trauma. There's been a lot of trauma already, especially these last 4, 8 years. And under this new regime coming in, is going to be a lot more uh, trauma. So you play within the game, open up an account, well, do research first, open an account, start investing in some of your money, pay down your debt if you have debt. Um, Student loans is going to be a kick in the pants for everybody. Um, if you're close to that 120, make sure you get as close to the 120 before Agent Orange takes office. Please go back to my episode I did with Dr. Sonia Lewis. She has an in with the Biden administration, and we need to pressure the Biden before he leaves office to forgive the student loans. There's a way he can do it legally before he leaves office. A big old FU to the Republican establishment that he could do. Go back to listen. You know, you know, use your social media platforms. You know, send him DMs, send him tweets, go on Instagram and tag him. Like he has the power still to end student loans, and he could do it before he leaves office. So you go back, listen to that episode I did with the student loan doctor, Dr. Sonia Lewis. Um, got a network. There's a whole bunch of social work conferences. Go to these conferences as best you can. Yes, it costs money, and money's tight for everybody. Your net work is definitely your net worth. I'm actually going to a wealth conference this weekend. No, I went to FinCon in Atlanta, and making connections and trying to learn as much as you can. What your passions are, what you want to do, work on your side hustles. Um, you know, there's stuff that you can do to have potential money in your pockets or more money in the pockets compared to your 9 to 5 jobs. Uh, who knows what 2026 is going to look like? There's already talks based on policies Trump intends to do will lead to a recession. Um, hopefully, any recession will not be as bad like the 2007 2008 because that actually impacted. I saw impacts related to social work during that time. So it's a lot of anxiety. There's some panic. Um, be honest, just for educational purposes, for me, I'm looking into moving out the country just to learn to see what that entails. What does that look like? Um, you know, I don't know anybody. I don't know one person um, that somehow stay in contact, and that's in Japan, and I'm not ready to make that move all the way down there over there. Um, and I got kids in school. I'm a caretaker of an elderly parent. You know, obviously married. So what? I can't do a harsh move or just all right, we out and just leave. It has to be planned out if that ever happens. So, um, I don't know if that's what you want to do. Like, actually, I was just on a Zoom, did a Zoom call, this recording last night about a social worker who worked in New York and during COVID moved to Canada and became a permanent resident and talked about how she planned it out and did it in ways to somehow to work as a social worker in Canada. So, um, like I said, doing your research, just kind of see what's out there, what people are talking about. Um, it's just a lot. It's a lot to process. These last 8 years have been a lot to process. Um, but we still truck on, moving along. But there's only so much collective grief. Like actions eventually need to start happening, and there needs to be ways to do it. Again, I would love to know more about how can realistically a third party candidate could really thrive because the Constitution wasn't made for Black and brown folks. The way the institutions are placed in America were not meant for Black and brown folks. So, um, and Agent Orange just don't give a damn about the Constitution and everything else anyway. So, um, is again, it's a lot. So um, I think that's all I got. Um, it's there's a lot happening all at the same time, and we just gotta be ready and take action. Um, start learning to invest. If you think about leaving the country, start doing research about it. If you're gonna stay, somehow how you gonna help your clients, you know, again, learn to invest in the market, use transferable skills, and somehow get into real estate. And there's different ways to make money. And if you have a business, that might be the only good thing that might help you is having a business. And I know no fees. Open up an LLC and starting a business with your own money is expensive. It's so the money is tight, and we gotta respect those who say that the money is tight and it's hard, and the economy is hard. And yes, it is hard. Uh, Somehow, some way, we gotta keep trucking along because we don't really have much of a choice. Okay, now I'm rambling. I'm gonna stop. Until next time.